United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guteres says what is imperatively needed now is to get a ceasefire on the crisis in Eastern Congo and create conditions for negotiation instead of thinking of imposing sanctions on the countries or players in the ongoing crisis. At the same time, Guteres, who spoke exclusively to NTV in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, hopes they will be able to gather a large consensus to have 2 African permanent members of the UN Security Council. He spoke to NTV's Duncan Haimba.
The United Nations has pointed out foreign players in the Eastern Congo crisis. Do you consider sanctions on them, especially Rwanda has been perceived as openly supporting M23?
I think that what we need now is to get a ceasefire. I think what we need now is to create conditions for a serious negotiation. I was very hopeful taking into account the results of the meeting of the SADC and the East African Community. I think it is absolutely essential to put in place what had been agreed, which is the neutralization of the FDLR and the withdrawal of the Rwandese forces. So this is what, for us, is important to do. It's to stop the sacrifice of the Congolese people. And that is our priority, and that is the area in which we have been active.
Okay. The Sudan humanitarian crisis, it has been described as the worst ever. There are those who feel that attention is elsewhere when there is a continued neglect on the Sudan humanitarian crisis. What do you say?
It is absolutely true. I mean, we have 2 major crises in the world that have captured the attention, the interest, especially of the powers. One is the war in Ukraine, the second, the situation in the Middle East. And because of that, not only there has not been political investment able to help solve the problem, unfortunately what we have is 2 groups fighting each other and creating tremendous suffering to their people, and several countries interfering, including with the provision of weapons to the parties. What we lack is a very strong commitment of the international community for a true mediation to stop this war. And at the same time, it is also true that from the humanitarian point of view, the crisis in Sudan, where the suffering is gigantic, is much less funded than what is happening in the Middle East or what is happening in the Ukraine.
Will the UN support the new stabilization force in Somalia, which is currently grappling with funding?
Well, we are in a process now to get the Security Council approval for a formula that would allow it to work. That formula is an hybrid formula. On one hand, there will be a United Nations mission to provide support to the African Union force. That United Nations mission, as it is based on the UN rules, will be able to be funded at 100%. And this will allow to fund at 75% the African Union mission. At the same time, and of course, the funding for the support mission of the UN is totally to support the African Union mission. But we still have to prepare a report, because there was a commitment that we would do reforms in UNSOM, in the UN support mission, to reduce the costs in order to make more available for the African Union mission. I hope that the report that we are preparing with the African Union will be approved by the Security Council, and that this will allow for, hopefully in June, to put in place the mechanism of funding.
Sir, African countries are feeling the heat. Are you concerned by the new administration in America suspending US aid, particularly when you look at health and the SDGs?
Now, the truth is that this suspension of funds, it's a suspension of funds, has had dramatic impacts in several areas, namely in the African continent, in questions like sanitation, health, some of the diseases that proliferate still, HIV/AIDS, TB, tuberculosis, malaria. Fortunately, the emergency food was exempted, but there are many other humanitarian aspects that are suffering. Let's hope that after these 3 months, there will be the reestablishment of those programs that are vital for the well-being of the African people.
Kenya sent its police officers in Haiti. Securing Haiti, U.S. again announced stopping funding. Maybe other countries might also follow suit. Are you also concerned about securing?
That the funding would be maintained, and we are very grateful to Kenya for leading this operation and for creating the possibility of hope for the people of Haiti that is suffering so much because of the action of the gangs.
In a nutshell, your message to the African Union, I know you'll be addressing tomorrow, but there could be a lot.
It's a message of solidarity, yes. Total solidarity. And I have to say that the partnership between the African Union and the United Nations is today the most effective partnership between international organizations, and there is a true brotherhood or sisterhood among between the two organizations.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.